Hello and welcome again on ClubSpotter. And today I have the chance to talk with Jay. Jay, who is the founder of GTM Ops. And Jay, I'll let you introduce yourself and tell a bit more about what you're doing.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Bladzin. That was Figaro in the back saying hi. Uh, I'm Jay Filiatro. I've been in sales and marketing operations for over 12 years. I guess I'll give a bit of background on myself. I born and raised in Montreal. Uh, Grew up with a pair of skates, like pretty much every Montrealer. Played a lot of hockey when I was a kid. I've always had an interest for business, marketing or commercialization, I'd say in general, and technology. I was building websites when I was first introduced to the internet as a teenager. And I invented a role for myself when people asked me what I wanted to do when I grew up. Chief Commercialization Officer. I had a big passion for the airline industry, and I wanted to be a CCO in a big airline. Um, and yeah, I don't know. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, I guess, after high school. So I just tried a whole bunch of stuff, including spending a couple of years in the airline industry, and realized how volatile it is and how underpaid people are in the industry, and decided to move on. Um, Tried a whole bunch of entrepreneurial ventures. I ran a catering company, ran a restaurant. I ran a poker room for a few years. And then somehow I found technology sales. My father built a really successful career in technology sales, working for companies like Dell and HP. And he's like, you have the personality and the aptitude to really be successful in sales. It's a good way to make a good living. You should really try it out. And I tried it and I hated it. Cold calling and just chasing people for orders and POs and stuff. Um, but the company where I was working at really appreciated me. I was a really good fit with the team and the culture and everything. And I just kind of got offered the opportunity to get involved more on the operational side. We were doing a big CRM migration at the time. It's a big company, so migration to SAP, which I don't wish on anybody. Uh, but I got involved even as a an SDR, pretty junior employee, as like a CRM super user, and help the team like hone the specs and everything for the implementation, and do a bunch of QA and refine some of the views and the customizations and the reports and whatnot. Um, and then at a friend's birthday dinner, I met the founder of Semantria, Oleg Roginski, who now runs People AI, and him and I just hit it off. We both got there early, so it was just him and I across the table from each other, like a 30-person table. He's like, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" Like, "Oh, I'm in sales." Like, "Yeah, me too." And by the end of the dinner, I found out that he runs his own software company. And he's like, "I really want to work with you." And a couple of weeks later, I was joining his team as a BDR initially,
Mhm.
but him and Rami, the head of marketing, were, I would say, ahead of their time in sales automation, outbound strategies, marketing automation. And again, I quickly developed an affinity or an interest for the operational side of things. So quickly, got more and more involved on that side. And that's kind of what I've been doing for the last like 12 years. I've been working for seed or Series A companies as head of sales and marketing operations, or head of growth roles, which is kind of hybrid. Probably 30, a quarter to half of my time is spent on operations, establishing process, and also running a whole bunch of growth experiments across the entire go-to-market motion. I've worked for companies that are more PLG, more sales assisted, sales led, a little bit of B2C for a couple of years as well. Yeah.
So
And
you went from restaurant like owner to head of growth marketing, sales, automation, and all the things. So that's quite a good story.
interesting path.
Yeah, definitely. But I do think that we are not made to like have one job all lifelong. Like, I do think personally that
I agree.
you need to discover too many things to, at the end, discover what makes you learn a lot, because the important is always to learn. And I do think that you are typically the kind of human that love learning, because you have made too many
100%.
things, to learn different skills. You were talking about marketing, sales, automation, and you choose a subject which link all the package, if I could say, all bones. First of all, could you define what is the all bone for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I chose to talk about the subject because it's something that comes up a lot since I started the agency in October last year. I work with a lot of early stage companies, seed and Series A companies, as an extension of their team and starting to build the foundations of revenue operations before it makes sense for them to build that function internally. So we're helping a lot of early stage companies put fuel on go to market motions or spin up new go to market motions. And one of the questions I get a lot from founders or early stage sales leaders or marketing leaders is like, what channels, what go to market motions should I focus on? Is it inbound? Is it PPC? Is it cold outbound? Is it what we call like intent nurturing or warm
Mm-hmm.
outbound? Partnerships, PLG, and the answer is yes, all. There's obviously a sequence and an order in which you want to tackle these things depending on the market that you're serving, depending on the makeup of your team and the skill set that you have. Um, but I would summarize Allbound as a way to orchestrate go to market, and a way to coordinate between sales, marketing, BDR efforts. It's basically not looking at each of those tactics like outbound, intent based nurturing, ABM, PPC in a silo, but it's all one go to market machine, go to market engine. And for example, if a BDR is doing outbound to one of your target accounts and they're engaging with the campaign, somebody forwards an email internally, that should be a signal that goes to marketing, and marketing increases the budget that they're spending on retargeting that company. So you get more impressions and you start, building knowledge of the product, the brand, some of the referrals, the testimonials that might be present. Here's Figaro again. Yes, and I think Allbound's probably always been a concept. Maybe the term didn't exist many years ago, but I think it's becoming even more possible and prevalent and more effective with all the different technologies. There's been so much evolution in GTM technology in the last like 24 months because of AI, but also just like new concepts or people that found ways to leverage existing technologies such as the Content ID network that RB2B and Vector.co are using to do person level identification of people visiting your website, or even third party intent that's resolved to the individual, unlike Bombora that's resolved to the company. So the actionability and the relevance of the data that we're able to mine and integrate into your CRM and into your sales engagement platforms and even your marketing. I think the actionability and the value of that data is becoming more and more relevant or higher with time. Yeah.
Data, this is a subject that we heard absolutely everywhere. Like, everybody's talking about data. Which kind
Yeah,
of data could be like the more efficient to sync sales and marketing together, just to have this go to market making, as you called it, and I like it.
absolutely. It's a great question. And that's obviously where you get into like optimizing your stack and the source of all the data. I think there's some probably like table stakes or things that you should have in place. Absolutely. And then there's like evolution, like best in class. Um,
Like,
if you're
let's
seeing
talk about the basics.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess again, it also depends on the nature of your business and like, you're more focused on outbound, or are you driving a lot of traffic to your website? If you're driving a lot of traffic to your website, whether it's from paid or from organic, I think you want to be able to identify who's visiting your website. So tools like factors.ai that are able to identify companies and individuals that are visiting your website. What pages are they visiting? Sync to CRM to flag high intent page visits, which allows your sales team to follow up on them, but also allows your marketing team to sync that data and that engagement to ad audiences, so they can be more intelligent in their retargeting. If you're just using like Facebook Pixel or Google retargeting capabilities, you can't filter by CRM data. So you're retargeting everybody, not just your ICP. So you're wasting ad dollars. So yeah, website intent for sure. I think the timeliness of contacting a prospect in the buying committee, I think is really important. So I think monitoring for intent signals ensures that you're reaching out at the right time with contextual messaging that's relevant to what they're doing research on or what conversations they're engaging in. There's a lot of solutions out there. If we talk about like just table stakes or like basics, I think most sales orgs, or pretty much any B2B sales org, should have Sales Navigator. And if you're doing a good job of building lists of target accounts and prospects, and you have your buying committee well defined in LinkedIn Sales Navigator, it's going to show you some of their content and some of their posts, and just give you an opportunity to engage with them and hopefully build a relationship before you start pitching your product and start talking about the problems that you can solve, or showcasing ahead some of the problems that you can solve by providing value first.
This is the head of sales talking, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can see the different persons on you, like the marketing one, the sales one.
Definitely. Yeah, I've touched a lot of things, and I guess that's kind of my strength, is touched a little bit of every aspect of go-to-market, jack of all trades, specialist of none. But sometimes better than a specialist of one, they say. I only discovered the second part of that quote a few years ago. Yeah, so we were talking about LinkedIn intent. There's all kinds of third-party intent as well. I think that's just really interesting. Once you start building presence online and on G2, for example, I think it's really relevant to see companies that are in your ICP, again, doing research on your competitors or just on your category, being able to flag companies that are coming to your page and looking at your reviews or pricing on G2 on third-party tools. And then there's third-party intent. When you sign up to a publication like, I don't know, NewYorkTimes.com, for example, somewhere in their fine print, it says you're giving us the right or authorization to share your data with our partners.
Our partners. We all know that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we all know, I think, we're the product in a lot of these platforms.
Of course.
Yeah, just I've come to accept that there's not much privacy or there's no privacy online.
If it's free, you're the product. That's a sentence that's for me. Each time I want to subscribe or just like to connect with I don't know, people who are talking about like free templates, free white paper, free. Each time when I subscribe to the newsletter, I know what happens.
Oh yeah,
I know that I'm gonna be the client, the prospect of multiple solutions for SaaS. But I mean, this is the game. We all know that, and this is the game.
Yeah, and I'm not against it. I prefer to get ads on topics that are relevant to me or that I'm doing research on, and seeing, I don't know,
definitely
swimsuit ads when I'm in the middle of the winter.
Better than ads for a baby when you have not, or because you are just on age to have babies.
Right. Yeah,
this is
exactly.
this is not me. It's my friends.
Hmm.
Now, I've seen too many ads like which are not dedicated to your accounts, and honestly, I prefer to have like ads which could be interesting for me to appear on my screen.
Here's the point too, like the relevance and the timeliness of the messaging is super important. In B2B too, we're talking about consumers, how we like to see ads that are relevant to us.
It's the same. Um, you were talking about marketing and sales, but Allbound is also um, the way to manage inbound and outbound in a sales way or in a marketing way. Do you have like in the sales way? Because we're going to talk sales and marketing definitely because you have two different person on you and I'm going to use the two different persons. So it's a double interview today.
Awesome.
Uh,
And then there's the ops person too.
it's going to be in the second episode.
Cool.
Uh, do you have like examples of how we can do to use the data from inbound to make the outbound even better, and how to use the data from outbound to make inbound even better?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's where I'm gonna maybe put on my operations hat a little bit. Because that that's where my strength is. I think I'm good at strategy and then operationalizing the strategy into process and technology and architecture, but not so much on the creative side and coming up with messaging and stuff. So I think that the first thing is just making sure that you're tracking the data in an efficient manner, making sure you have like filters or that you're only bubbling up the relevant data to the right
Mm-hmm.
people or the right systems, and then you have the architecture to be able to action that data, whether it's through automation, through syncing with third-party tools, like I say, like syncing to ad audiences, so your retargeting is focused on ICP companies that are visiting high intent pages rather than retargeting all your website visitors. Having good process. And I think the key as well is centralizing all of your intent signals, so none of them are being actioned in silos, and you're building a cohesive understanding of the buying journey on an individual level, but also on the company level. If you're let's take like Hublead, like a company's doing research on how to log their LinkedIn interactions in HubSpot. Uh, that first signal might just be like, oh, I have an idea and I'm looking for something that I might need in the future. But if there's multiple people at the company looking at the same topic and visiting your website, and you see a first visit 3 months ago, and then 3 months later there's more and more people, and then somebody follows your company page on LinkedIn, or you're seeing activity on G2. I mean, that's like speed to lead. Like you should be jumping on that signal, versus somebody who's just coming to your website for the first time and visiting your pricing page. A lot of people, visiting the pricing page is pretty high intent. Um, but I think, like I say, it's really important to find that concentration of activity, because that's typically the time when there's actually a decision being made and a pressing problem to be solved. So I would summarize, because I know it went on a lot of directions there. But centralizing your different sources of intent, I think, is really important. And I forgot engagement. I think that's also, I guess I mentioned a little bit early on,
You mentioned
in
it.
like forwarding emails internally and stuff. And if people are responding, clicking on emails, that's important. Engaging with your content on LinkedIn or other social profiles. So just the fact of centralizing or aggregating all that data is a challenge in itself. And then building actionability around that data in an intelligent way. Like I say, you don't want to be nurturing somebody who visited your pricing page for the first time the same way as you're nurturing somebody who like looking at reviews on G2, viewing your pricing page and interactive demos on your website. There's multiple people at the company that are engaging, or even more if they sign up for a trial. Like that's obviously much higher intent than visiting your website for the first time. You want to make sure that you're engaging them in a way that matches, I guess, the where you
Yeah.
can infer they are in their buying journey based on the level of engagement that you're seeing.
Okay, super good advice. How do we nurture leads? Not in terms of outbound or inbound, but outbound and inbound, so that we can have an all-bound process.
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's where like the sophistication comes in, and I guess the complexity a little bit of your automation, your rules has to come into play. I think that's one of the big opportunities for AI on the short to midterm is being able to look at a group of signals, like I say, across individuals in the organization, across the entire company, and make an intelligent decision on what value drivers, what pain points they should it should be addressing. I I think we're on the cusp of it. I don't think we're fully there. So right now, what I'm seeing work well is more of a rules based system, which can get a little bit complex. But you got to walk before you run. You got to start somewhere. I think if you're tracking your intent signals properly, once you've closed a little bit of business, you can understand what signals are most relevant and are most likely to drive pipeline, and then you can really focus on optimizing the nurturing of those signals. So to be more tactical, I guess, or actionable in what I'm saying, yeah, you gotta. I think a good way to do it from a rules based perspective is to rank your intent signals by relevance. Um, and if you want to get really sophisticated and nuanced, rank your intent signals by relevance to the persona as well. Like if you're selling a more complex SaaS solution that has a lot of integrations to the stack, somebody viewing the security page from the IT department is also a very high intent signal. But they don't care. They probably don't care about the ROI of your platform and how your platform compares to the competition, because they're not the end user. They just care that you have SOC 2 compliance and you have a DPA that's well that's well written. Uh, so you want to orchestrate your nurture of that signal very differently than somebody that's viewing interactive demos or looking at a comparison page between you and one of your competitors, as an example. And you also want to make sure that, like, if you're seeing an intent signal for like view pricing page, but the company's already down the funnel and they're already like in evaluation, and a week ago they were looking at differentiations between you and your competitors on G2, then you don't want to reach out to them and say, hey, I saw you were checking out our pricing page. Do you have any questions on pricing? It's like they've been evaluating your solution and investigating for weeks or months. At that point, you want to make sure that you're in a position to, like I say, infer kind of where they are in the buying journey and address what are the most relevant concerns at that point to the persona that you're speaking with.
And to have that live on the CRM, how do you recommend to build the architecture, or what do you recommend to put in place just to be sure that you address the right message to the right person, and to have the intent like a minute managed by interest?
Priority, yeah.
By
And that's key, I think, is centralizing all of that in CRM. I think there's maybe a future version that's more of like a composable CDP, that's where you're storing everything in a data warehouse, and things are being actioned by endpoints. But I think especially in early stage, CRM is the place to centralize all of that. And that's why I love tools like HubLead, for example, because it's really hard to get LinkedIn interaction data into CRM, and Hubly does a great job of that.
Thank you.
Of course. Um, One of the ways that we've done this at the agency and for some of our clients is using custom objects in HubSpot. First of all, you want to make sure that all your intent sources are syncing relevant intent signals to the CRM. A lot of them, through their native integrations, will just update the values of properties. Like G2 will say, like, this company looked at, they were looking at this competitor and somebody from this location what was looking at that page. But that doesn't allow you, like, if there's another intent signal coming from that company, it just overrides the value of that property. So that doesn't allow you to see a history of what's happening and identify if there's a concentration of intent signals at a given time. So every time an intent signal is coming into HubSpot, we print a custom object in an object we call intent signals. So that allows us, like, to see how many intent signals and there's a concentration in any given time. It also allows the sales team to see a history of intent signals on the company object, so they can wrap their heads around a little bit, what features they might have been looking into, what competitors they might have been looking into or comparing the solution to on G2 or on competitive pages on your website. And it would also allow you to, if you're using a custom AI agent to do personalization at scale, you can pull that through the API and just give me all the intent signals for this company and use that as part of your input, I guess, to orchestrate that personalization. The history of intent signals, the company description, my client's value proposition and how we solve specific pain points that we see in the market, the person's LinkedIn profile, so we know, like, we understand a little bit what their objectives are in their job, what their work history is. Have they used any solutions that are relevant in the space that we're in, or any of our competitors potentially? All that, I think, just ensure that your messaging is relevant and on point, and allows you to, like I say, kind of build an intelligent inference of where the company is in their buying journey and how they've been navigating their evaluation or their research.
I thank you very much. I see the time flies, so I need to stop the conversation. But we're gonna have another episode. I know that you have one, which is very funny. So I let you tell the story.
So many to choose from. I guess there's a lot of made a lot of mistakes in my career that you laugh about afterwards. The first one that comes to mind is I was managing pricing when I was in the airline industry for our flights, and we had this, like, crazy marketing tactic, crazy sale where we would sell plane tickets for $1 on Sunday. It's like first come, first serve, but you'd pay, like, full price, or if not more than full price, for the return. You had to buy a return ticket. And I misconfigured. I forgot to remove a checkbox when I was deploying the pricing. And we sold, I don't know, a few hundred flights basically between Montreal and Calgary, which is like a 3-hour flight for $2 round trip. And it's the CEO who caught the issue. He was very involved in the commercialization, and he just came to my boss with a spreadsheet. He's like, "Why the heck have we only made like $60,000 today on the Montreal Toronto route? Like, we're usually making like $300,000-$400,000 a day in revenue, and you just, like, we sold a bunch of tickets and made $60K. What is going on?" And that was
this is awesome.
Pretty costly mistake, just from, like, forgetting to remove a checkbox somewhere.
This is insane. Okay, so this is quite, I do think, one of the best anecdotes / mistakes that I've heard from the start of ClubSpotter.
I've got plenty more. So yeah, I got another good one for next episode already that I'm thinking of.
But how do you manage to like do they fly for $2 or
Yeah, absolutely.
finally? Okay.
Yeah. We just gotta
So
bite the bullet,
next,
and it's our mistake. So
oh, insane.
thankfully,
Next
we
time
caught
that
it
you
relatively quickly, but or the
yeah.
CEO caught it relatively.
Next time, if you decided to like work on a flight company, just drop me a message before, so I'm gonna check the I'm gonna check the websites.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know what the moral of the story is, because yeah, sometimes you got to go fast, but that was worth, I guess, taking an extra second to double check your stuff.
Yeah, the moral is double check when you're
Yeah,
doing something like that, which is
exactly.
actually a good strategy in terms of sales because the clients have the perceptions that they are winning something, but they are not. So you're not
That's
losing
true.
money if you check the box, and and yeah, that's quite a cool operation. But yeah, a very very big mistakes.
Yeah, pretty big. Sometimes they turn out good when you don't expect it. You know, when I was in
Yeah,
B2C,
sometimes it's the
we
other
sent an
way.
email to 140,000 people with the subject line email 01. We forgot to replace the subject line, and it got the best open rate
No,
of all the emails we sent, because people were like, "What is this?" They
of
were
course.
curious, and yeah.
Of course, definitely. I was like in an internship in a company which was selling wine, and I was responsible to send like the newsletter every Friday, and I sent an email with a spelling mistakes, but it was like 1,000 people, so we get like too many replies for the care. Like, could you please check your object before sending the email? And I was like, oh my God, what have done? But the moral of the story is like, my boss take all the responsibility for my mistakes. So he was a super boss. But yeah,
That is a good
the
boss. Yeah,
moral is double check everything you do. Just to
yeah,
be
yeah.
sure that you're not making like huge mistakes. Jay, do you
Absolutely.
have one word, a word that is important for you, a word that you want people to retain, or your leitmotif, like a word?
One word:
Mm-hmm.
passion.
Passion,
Yeah,
which is a good one.
I don't know. Yeah, I think it applies in so many aspects. Passion for hobbies, passion for what you do for a living. If you're passionate about what you do, you're gonna have fun. You're gonna be motivated to learn and continue progressing. It's contagious. I think people feel your
Definitely
passion,
contagious.
and yeah, exactly.
Definitely. Thanks a lot for all your advice. Thanks a lot for your joy also. And
Of course.
yeah, I can't wait to have you for for a second episode. And thank you very much, Jay.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. Looking forward to the next one as well.